You were removed from this position, not because of misconduct, but because of your religious conviction.
There was a motion that board would support transgenderism during Pride Month. The question came up, well, we want to know why is Pastor Hodges abstaining from the vote? First of all, I said, I love you because you're fearfully and wonderfully made by the same God that fearfully and wonderfully made me. Deuteronomy 22:5 says, man does not dress like a woman does not dress like a man. It's an abomination in the eyes of God. And then they told me, get him out of here.
This is a case about whether people of faith can participate in public life without being excluded because of their religious beliefs. We have joining us today Pastor Dennis Hodges from San Diego, California, to talk about a fight that he has been involved with that is headed to the United States Supreme Court. Hey, thank you, Pastor Hodges.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
So, Dennis, let's just start off here right off the top. You have served faithfully for years, and you have been highly respected in the role that you have played. What was the position that you were in?
I was on the Human Relations Commission Board for the County of San Diego. Okay. Also, simultaneously, I was on the Citizens Advisory Review Board for Police and Community Relations.
Okay, all right. And the reason why I think this case is a pivotal case, and I think the Supreme Court very well might want to chime in on this case, is because you have served faithfully in this role for many, many years. How many years did you serve in this role?
If my memory serves me correctly, I'm still on the Human Relations Commission Board, even though they tried to kick me off of that.
Okay.
I won in that one. I've been on that one. Let me see. The city, since 2016. Maybe 2018, something like that.
And you were removed from this position, not because of misconduct, but because of your religious convictions. And that some people think, wait a second, isn't this the 21st century? I thought we've had many, many wars and passed many, many laws and constitutional provisions to protect that right to be free from religious persecution. But yet you are a living example here in the 21st century of a person who was fired from your job, removed from your job, I should say, because of your religious convictions. This is a case about whether people of faith can participate in public life without being excluded because of their religious beliefs. And so it's a huge question. I really do hope the Supreme Court picks up, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what is before the U.S. Supreme Court right now. But first, Dennis, for those of you who do not know, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. Went to Southern Illinois University in 1973. Quit school around 76. My daughter was born, and I started working at the Menard Correctional Center in Southern Illinois on the Mississippi River. It was the Menard State Penitentiary, and I worked there a few years, and I went to Marion, Illinois, to the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I was a correctional officer at both. Then I applied to California, and I came to California. I left Illinois December 78, came to California, started I got to California in San Luis Obispo, California, January 1st, 79, and I started January 2nd, 79, and worked there in San Luis Obispo at the California Men's Colony until I was working for this guy who had promoted to captain, and he promoted to Susanville, California. I moved to Susanville with him up in the mountains, and I left Illinois to get away from the snow and cold weather, and then I found out that Susanville snowed and had cold weather, and I had to get up out of there. Wow. So I left there in June of 80 and went to Vacaville, California. I worked from Vacaville, California from June at the California Medical Facility. Charles Manson was there, and Sirhan, those guys, they were there when I worked, and I worked there until I promoted to sergeant in 1986 in San Quentin, and I went to San Quentin in '86, worked there, and came to San Diego in 1988. I was a sergeant in '88 until '93. I promoted to lieutenant, and then I was the gang lieutenant in 2000 until 2004, and then I went to the street. Worked my last 4 years on the street at the Special Service Unit, Office of Correctional Safety, as a special agent, liaison between all the local city, San Diego police, Narcotics Task Force, DOJ, FBI, as a liaison between those units. And then I got saved in 1993 as I backtracked in this salvation walk, and then I was a usher at the New Creation Church here in San Diego from 94 till about 98, and I was the president of the usher board. And in 98, the pastor at that time was Senior Pastor Reginald Gary. He licensed me as a minister of the gospel, and then in 2005, he ordained me as a pastor. I was the pastor of the men's ministry, associate pastor. So I was associate pastor at New Creation Church for 18 years. And then I started my own church in 2011, where I'm now the senior pastor of the Church of Yeshua HaMashiach. And we've been in existence this past May, first Sunday in May, 15 years.
So for the record, I want to make sure we are following this story. I do believe that now both you and the current Pope both had their origins in Chicago. So, hey, you know what? Good for both of you guys. But now
and I started out as a Catholic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. You know, one became Pope, the other one became served on the San Diego Human Relations Commissions and Citizens Advisory Board. Hey, welcome, Bob. I hear you have now joined
Bob, it's good seeing you.
Great to be with you, Pastor.
All right.
You too, Joel.
We are just getting to know Pastor Dennis Hodges here. Didn't realize he's from Chicago, but I hear he then moved to San Diego, California. So already I'm thinking this guy is making great decisions with his life. But tell us a little bit about what led you to serve on the San Diego Human Relations Commission and Citizens Advisory Board.
Joel Anderson asked me would I serve, and I told him, sure, I'm a servant. I will serve. And he told me that it would be diverse. I said, not a problem. I don't have a problem with that. And so I served there for many years. And then Myrtle Cole, she was, I forgot what position she was in, but she asked me to join the Citizens Advisory Review Board for Police and Community Relations at the same time.
But for those unfamiliar with your case, and Bob, feel free to chime in here as well, because you've been involved from the very beginning on this case, but walk us through what happened. So you get appointed to this position, serve on this board, you're doing good things, you get removed, not for misconduct, but because of your religious conviction. So walk us through here for our listeners how that happened.
Again, as I said, simultaneously, I was serving on both boards. The county, they in November 2021, there was a motion that board would support transgenderism during Pride Month, and I abstained from the vote twice. Several other people abstained from the vote as well. They came back around. That's why I said twice. They came back around. And those, I think the sheriff's department, somebody that was representing the sheriff, they had originally abstained, but then they took their abstention away and then they voted. And someone else, and I forgot who it was. But then I continued to abstain.
Okay.
Then the question came up from one of those persons who are in the transgender community. Well, we want to know why is Pastor Hodges abstaining from the vote?
Right.
And we were on Zoom. And everybody got quiet. And I said, well, if you really want to know, Deuteronomy 22:5 says, man does not dress like a woman. First of all, I said, I'm going to tell you this. I love you because you're fearfully and wonderfully made by the same God that fearfully and wonderfully made me. And it's not against you, but it's against what you're doing. I cannot uphold to that. Deuteronomy 22:5 says, man does not dress like a woman. Woman does not dress like a man. It's an abomination in the eyes of God. And then they told me, get him out of here. He's a racist. He's a homophobe. He's a bigot. I mean, they called me all out my name on Zoom and the whole nine. And
this is really important, and so I don't want to gloss over it, but make sure I understand it right. You abstained from a vote for whatever reason. There was a matter before you decided to abstain. What? And then they asked you why. And then you said, well, it's basically, I'm paraphrasing, but due to your religious convictions. And so when they asked you the why you abstained from voting, that's when the negative repercussions came down?
Yes, that's when it came down. And then they went to the Board of Supervisors to kick me off that board.
Okay.
The Board of Supervisors at that time was Nathan Fletcher. He told them to vote me off. Well, they needed 13 votes to kick me off. 10 said kick him off, 6 said no, and 3 abstained.
Really?
So I'm still on that board.
Now,
on that county board.
now, again, I'm playing devil's advocate here a little bit. I'm trying to draw this out, but you abstained from voting. Was there any reason that you weren't performing your job correctly, that you had somehow weren't providing advice like you were supposed to provide advice? Was there any
No.
other reason other than
No.
you stated your religious beliefs on this matter?
That's it. That's it.
Wow.
For total.
Hey, Pastor, so you referenced race. Did they? I don't recall. Did they actually on that Zoom video say or recording say it was you're a racist?
If my memory serves me correctly, they called me a homophobe, a bigot, they called me all that. Yes.
Wow.
What's your response to that? You know, you're here. You are a black man sitting on this panel.
Well, my response is they know not what they do. You know, like when the Lord was on the cross, he said they know not what they do. And I'm glad, really, it was a protection of me because I haven't always been saved. Okay. And I'm glad we was on Zoom and not in person, because it might would have been worse. But I didn't. So I just looked at him and I was kind of baffled with the whole thing. All I did was quote scripture to share why I didn't go with the vote. That's all I did. And then they took me where else and they want to kick me off of that too. But then I got a call when I left after they tried to kick me off, and then I came back and I mean not come back, but I was exonerated exactly from the county. They still kept me on that board because they couldn't vote me off. And so I went out of town. And I came back and I went downtown to re-up on the city advisory review board for police and community relations because it was that time. I went down there, did my right hand and the whole piece, and I was good. Signed the paperwork. Then I get a call from the mayor's assistant, and she says, "Well, the mayor is vetoing your position with the city." I said, "Why?" She said, because it's optics. She says, because of what you said in the county. I said, all I did was mention the Bible. And I did that based on them asking me why I abstained from the vote. She said, well, the mayor, why? So then she says, well, somebody from the county called the mayor's assistant. And then the mayor's assistant told the mayor, because the mayor didn't have no idea of that. So he told the mayor, and then the mayor vetoed me from coming back. And I told the person who called me, I said, you tell the mayor that I'm suing him for violating my religious freedom and my freedom of speech.
So, Pastor, it does seem like, more than it seems like, it is the case that you were terminated. You were removed from your position because you did not have the right religious beliefs.
Yes.
Now, Bob, I have a question for you. Again, I'm a history major. I have a law degree. You have a law degree. Isn't that's a problem? I mean, one of the most basic tenets in our Constitution is that there should not be religious tests for holding public office. How is this not a blatant violation of the law?
When I heard about this case, I said, "This is a religious test. They are terminating the pastor, preventing him from being able to serve, I should say, because of his religious beliefs." And that clearly is a violation of some of our fundamental constitutional principles. When you go back in history and you take a look at our founding fathers, they did not want a religious test. They didn't want an idea that, well, you have to belong to the Church of Christ, or you can't be Catholic, or you can't be a Congregationalist, or you name it. They didn't want to have a religious test, and that's pretty clear. And so we looked at this and thought, this is going to be interesting. We're here in in over here on the left coast in California, and it's a tough place to litigate. We knew going into this that it's going to be an uphill battle because there's going to be interpretations of law that are going to go against us by judges who are not inclined to rule in our favor in normal circumstances. And so we took it up and we said, let's do it. We need to take this on. And, a lot of times, Joel, as you know, Pastor, we don't take cases on because we necessarily know we are going to win, but we take cases because we know they need to be fought.
Right.
And that is, a dear principle that we've had here at Advocates for a long time, because over time, things will change, law will change, as media pick up on these stories and people begin to start questioning whether or not it's appropriate for a black man serving on these commissions to be called a racist and somehow unqualified because of his religious beliefs on an issue that for this country's entire history has looked upon the issue of transgenderism and said, no, there's no fundamental constitutional right to that. And, the vast majority of people, even today, still believe that, no, that's not appropriate. It's not a good lifestyle. And you just simply said what everybody thinks and quoted scripture doing so. And so we felt that it was an important case to take on.
What shocks me most about this case, and Pastor, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's nowhere in the facts anywhere where you did not do what you were supposed to do, provide advice and consultation.
I did everything.
A go-between. You fought for everyone. There was no allegation at all about that. This is just simply once they found out what your religious beliefs were, they terminated. They made the decision. I shouldn't say terminate you, but to veto your reappointment, which is the same thing as removing you from office because of your religious beliefs. And so I don't know who said it, but we're in the left circuit there, left coast.
Left coast.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why we're excited about the possibilities with this case. Sometimes we take a case to fight it, for a myriad of different reasons. But if you can really change the law for everyone else that comes afterwards, that's a great reason to take a case. And here, in all the other circuits, they apply a balancing test, which is we're going to balance the need of, let's just say, the mayor here or whoever is the hiring person to have people on his advisory council that are of a certain, political ideology or what have you. They're going to balance it out. Not in the left circuit. In the left circuit, it's an automatic. If you are, if this is an advisory, some kind of quasi-political position, they can fire you for any reason under the sun. And so if you they don't like your religious beliefs, if you don't pass the religious test, they can fire you for that reason alone. And to me, that is a blatant violation of our Constitution. When there is no balancing whatsoever, they just don't like your religion, they can fire you.
And to even serve in a volunteer position, that is, right, Pastor?
Yeah,
I mean, this is
volunteer. Yeah, it's volunteer.
I mean, this is the epitome when you think about participation in the community. Participating in our government, volunteering. When are they going to next say that, well, if you don't support transgenderism and embrace it and wave the flag that they want you to and march in the parade with them, you're not qualified to coach Little League, coach soccer for the city parks and recs. I mean, that's effectively what's happening here. I mean, where does this end? They're going to say, oh, well, this has to do with the fact that, this fella isn't supportive of the mayor's position and he's responsible for the appointments. Well, that goes, it's a slippery slope.
The mayor didn't appoint me, or Myrtle Cole appointed me. The mayor, so I don't even know how the mayor got involved with this other than it was a city appointment, I guess, but and he's got his own issues. I mean,
well, for him to have the right to veto, and that's the thing, is that there was a decision that was made saying you don't qualify.
Yeah.
So I'm going to prevent you because I don't agree with you.
Right. All
right. What does this say to other Christians or even other people of faith that you can be removed from a position solely because of your religious convictions?
It's saying to them that they have no say-so. if they don't go with the status quo, if they don't go with it, then we're gonna get rid of you.
Right.
I mean, and so I think they call it cutoff culture or something.
Cancel culture, right?
Yeah, cancel culture. Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, the Lord is mighty, the Lord is sovereign, and it's the Lord that's in charge of everything. And He allows things to happen, probably just to see where we are.
Well, what would you say to this? And I'm playing devil's advocate here, but what would you say to this? That if you had just hid your religious beliefs, kept them secret, not share your beliefs, you would have been okay. What is that?
Well, to
I
me,
almost shudder to even think that way.
A person that does that, they're compromising. They're compromising the gospel. You're compromising. How can you not speak up against that?
Right.
I mean, it's wrong. It's the same way if a person is serving under me as an associate minister of the gospel, a deacon, or whatever it be, and he's married and he's committing adultery. You can't do that. I got to sit you down because it's not, that's you totally out of line. The word of God says, do not commit this, and you doing it and you want to serve too. That's the two. One and one don't make two with that.
Yeah.
Let me address a point there too. Is that one of the mayors says, but hey, it's like the church. You're representing me, so I should have the right to veto. And just like he was a pastor, but I think important for the audience, the distinction is that this is the government, and the government is prohibited under the First Amendment, whereas a church is allowed under the First Amendment. A religious organization is allowed under the First Amendment to discriminate and say, no, you don't represent who we are.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Bob.
Big difference.
Bob, I want you to talk a little.
It is a big difference.
Bob, I want you to talk a little bit about what the next steps are here, because I know that the U.S. Supreme Court does not take a lot of cases, but they do take some cases, and you've been involved in some cases that the Supreme Court is really thinking hard about. In this particular case, why do you think the Supreme Court should take it up, and what are the issues at play?
Well, I think the key is this conflict within the circuits, and what happens is when we have cases that different parts of the country are ruling in one way versus other parts of the country. So as you talked about this balancing test in other circuits outside, we're in the Ninth Circuit here, and in this particular case out of California, the Supreme Court will desire often to ensure uniformity across the states and ensure that this same law is going to apply in New York and Miami, and just like it would apply in California. And the First Amendment, the Constitution, is applied across the country uniformly. And I think that's why this case is one that the court hopefully will accept. It gives us the basis and foundation to be able to get in front of the court, because the court says there's a couple of reasons why we'll take the case up. And typically one of the biggest reasons is this conflict in the circuits, as you know, where the law is interpreted differently between the judges from one circuit to another. So that's a biggie. And it's important also that, and I think this court is very interested in protecting the free exercise of religion. We have some cases coming up that the Supreme Court's going to be ruling on this month.
Right.
And we are eagerly anticipating some rulings that will likely, Lord willing, are going to address this issue of transgenderism, and particularly in public schools, and free exercise of religion. And so we think that there's going to be some neat opportunities here, and hopefully the court will look at this in the same way. Or maybe it'll issue a ruling that allows us to go back and ask the Ninth Circuit to reconsider its ruling based upon new precedent from the Supreme Court.
Well, Bob, you are a history major's dream, because the other case that you are referencing is one where I know we are fighting against Calvary Chapel San Jose, and in that case, the state is trying to fine a church upwards to $3 million for not shutting down. Think about that. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, all of the other founding fathers are rolling in their graves right now thinking, what? You have the state that is fining a church $3 million because they wouldn't shut down at the state's order. And now here you are fighting a religious test requirement, another blatant violation of the U.S. Constitution. Bob, maybe you should just teach history class so that way the next generation of people can actually understand what our laws are and what they say. These seem to be blatant violations of the Constitution. So I'm really glad that advocates, you and advocates are fighting the good fight here.
And
well, you as well as being part of the team and pastor, it takes courage. I always say this, there's something that I often say, and that our Constitution is only as strong as those who are willing to enforce it.
Great point.
And if we don't have people with courage that are willing to step up to enforce our constitutional rights, our Constitution is worthless. Yeah. And you're one of them, Pastor. So what do you say to other pastors?
My prayer is that they would step up as well, and that's kind of why I'm fighting this good fight, so that they won't be afraid, and then don't compromise just because you have these people in your congregation and they're paying you so much money for your tithes and offerings, and you think that that's what, if they leave, they're gonna take that with them. And I mean, God, He's the resource and He's the source. I get a retirement check every month, so I don't depend on the church to take care of me. And at the end of the day, had it been the other way, I would still fight the same way I'm fighting, knowing that the Lord is gonna provide, because He's always been my provider. So I would tell other pastors to trust in Him. If they study the book and they know what the book says, lean not on your own understanding, but acknowledge Him in all His ways, and then He shall direct your path. Let Him direct the path, and quit relying on people, because people people are people, and there's no way that we can be steadfast and totally committed by going around the block playing hopscotch with some stuff that we know is out of line. If it's in the book, stick with the book.
Great word. Let's close on that word. It's a great word to close on. I do want to say thank you for fighting the good fight. And this case, your case, the Supreme Court will likely take up in the fall. So we'll get a decision sometime in the fall as to how the Supreme Court wants to proceed with this case. And Bob, we just want to make sure our listeners, our supporters know exactly the fights that we are fighting on their behalf. So we really are an extension of those that support us as well, and they allow us to fight the good fight.